Death Note in the Hands of a Muslim. Chapter 4. The Creepy Mystery. Before the dawn of the next day, Ali woke to the sound of his phone alarm. He had set it to ring daily, half an hour before the call to the Sab prayer, so he would have enough time to prepare himself. He turned off the alarm and rubbed his eyes hard. He was clearly still tired and sleepy, understandable since he had gone to bed late and now had woken up very early. But it didn't matter. He could catch up on his sleep after coming back from the masjid, especially since there was no school on Fridays. He let out a long yawn, then slowly got up from his bed. After a big stretch, he turned on the light in his room. As soon as he did, something on his desk caught his eye. Something new, something that hadn't been there yesterday. Right in the middle of his desk, in front of his powered-off PC, was a black notebook. 2 words were printed in curving English letters on the cover: Death Note. Very puzzled, Ali immediately picked it up to examine it. It looked new. All the pages were blank, but strangely it didn't have the usual scent that comes with a freshly bought notebook from a library. Perhaps he thought it had been hidden away for a long time and never used. Its first page was entirely black with a small white inscription written in English. Rules. Any person whose name you write in this note while envisioning their face in your mind shall die. Ali chuckled. Death Note. That was the name of the anime he had almost watched last night, and the idea that anyone whose name is written in the notebook will die was the anime's main idea, which he had found incredibly creative and one of a kind when he watched the trailer. Right away, Ali thought there could only be one person behind this prank. The image of his friend Salim with his wicked smile popped into his mind immediately. This was probably another one of his attempts to convince him to watch the anime. Maybe I should write his name before I give it back to him, Ali muttered mockingly. But then, wait a minute. Ali's eyes narrowed. When did Salim even bring this notebook? He clearly remembered that Salim hadn't come to his house yesterday. Ali had stayed up very late, so there was no way Salim could have sneaked it in after he went to sleep, and he definitely couldn't have brought it this morning before Ali woke up. It was still very early, and Salim was never an early riser. It didn't make any sense. After he finished getting ready, Ali went downstairs and found his family in the sitting room. They were all awake like him, waiting for the call to prayer, even Yasmin. She was sitting beside their mother, the two of them reading the Quran together. His father, as usual, was buried in the newspaper. Assalamu alaikum. Did Salim come by yesterday? Or today? Ali asked. They all paused what they were doing and looked at him with puzzled expressions. The question had clearly caught them off guard. Today? At this hour? His father replied. When has that ever happened? And I definitely didn't see him yesterday. Unless you let him in after we went to sleep like you sometimes do on the weekends. Then, did anyone come into my room while I was sleeping? No? Why? His mother asked, concerned. Did something happen? Did you find anything missing? Oh no, nothing like that. Don't worry, it's just something between me and Salim, Ali said, a bit embarrassed. And he glanced at his sister to see if she knew anything about the matter, but she just looked at him with innocent, curious eyes, clearly wondering what he was talking about. So he told them goodbye and stepped outside, heading toward the masjid. But he still didn't understand. If it wasn't Salim, and it wasn't anyone in his family, then who put that notebook on his desk? After he came back from the masjid, Ali placed the black notebook in his desk drawer and went back to sleep, hoping the mystery would solve itself by the time he woke up. But contrary to his hopes, the mystery only deepened. Because after about 3 hours of sleep, as soon as he opened his eyes and got out of bed, he found the black notebook exactly where he had found it the first time, right in the middle of his desk. It wasn't inside the drawer where he had put it before sleeping. It was as if someone had taken it out while he was asleep. He considered going downstairs again to ask if anyone had entered his room, but he had a strong feeling it wasn't anyone from his family. They had already made it clear at dawn that they had nothing to do with the notebook. Besides, His father was never the type to play jokes. His mother, maybe sometimes, but how would she even know about the Death Note anime? And it was far too elaborate a prank for his little sister. Sure, she was with him every time Salim talked about the anime, but he knew very well that she couldn't keep a joke on him for so long. Usually, when she played a prank on him, she'd start giggling the moment he asked who did it. But not this time. She had looked just as confused as their parents when he questioned them earlier. Besides, he had another much creepier suspicion, one he didn't want to believe. And to prove that suspicion wrong, he returned the notebook to the desk drawer. But his time, he locked it with its key which only he possessed. During the day, he remembered another small detail about the black notebook that caught his attention. When Salim had talked to him about the anime, he mentioned that the Death Note contained several rules, maybe 4 or 5, he didn't remember the exact number. But the black notebook which he currently had, and which supposedly was an exact replica of the one in the anime, contained only one rule. If a publishing house had created a notebook modeled after the one in the Death Note anime, perhaps to boost sales, then why didn't they replicate it exactly, with all the rules included? And that the single rule in the notebook he had was preceded by the number 1, as if hinting that the notebook wasn't complete yet, and that more rules were still to come. He found that very strange because obviously the rest of the rules weren't going to write themselves. Later that evening, Ali went out with his sister to buy something from a nearby store. By coincidence, he ran into his friend Salim. He figured this was his chance to ask him directly and finally solve the mystery of the notebook. "Assalamu alaikum," he greeted. "That was a nice trick you pulled on me. I admit it, even though I still don't know how you did it." "Wa alaikum assalam," Salim replied, looking a little confused. "You'll have to be more specific. I pulled a lot of tricks on you. Which one are you talking about?" "The one about the Death Note." "Oh yeah," Salim said, his face lighting up. "So you finally watched it? I knew you would. Yeah, I tricked you and said the flash drive wasn't mine, but it was totally worth it if it got you to watch it. So tell me, how was it? I told you it was super amazing." "I'm not talking about the anime," Ali said firmly. "I didn't watch it. I told you I wouldn't." Salim's smile faded slightly. "Then, what are you talking about? You said something about a trick with the Death Note." Ali was silent for a second. Salim had been his prime suspect, maybe even his only one. But from the way he responded, it didn't sound like he had any clue what Ali was referring to. So, if it wasn't Salim, who was it? Or what was going on? "Never mind," Ali said finally. "But you do admit the flash drive is yours. Good. Then, like I promised, I'll give it back to you now. Empty." At dawn on Sunday, when he woke up as usual for the Shub prayer, the creepy feeling he had about the black notebook got even creepier. The feeling that told him it had appeared out of nowhere. Because as soon as he opened his eyes and turned on the light, there it was again, right in the middle of his desk. His eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. But the notebook was there again, like it was saying to him, "Hi, hello again." He reached under his pillow and pulled out the key to his desk drawer. Then slowly, with steps heavy with fear and eyes still locked on the notebook, he approached the desk. Carefully, he unlocked the drawer and pulled it open. It wasn't there. Of course it wasn't, Ali thought angrily, because it was on his desk. But who took it out and how? He remembered clearly that he had placed it inside the drawer and locked it tight. He had even shut the window and locked the door before going to bed. The key was still in the doorknob, which meant no one could have opened it from the outside. So how did it happen? He picked up the black notebook gingerly with trembling hands and began inspecting it again. He checked both of its black covers, then flipped through the first few pages after the front cover, then a few from the back, and finally leafed through all the remaining pages. With each turn, he could feel his heart racing faster, his breathing growing heavier. A Aside from the title Death Note printed on the cover and the single rule on the first black page, there was nothing else written inside. No publishing house, no publishing date, no ISBN, nothing. Which was especially strange, because it certainly didn't look homemade. The mystery started to drive him crazy and even fill him with fear. Could it be some enchanted notebook? Could it be magic? For a Muslim, if something was related to magic or sorcery, then it was definitely connected to the devil. Therefore, for a Muslim to get involved with magic, he must either be a very bad one or, worse, have denied Islam altogether. No. Ali immediately shook the thought out of his head. He was a good Muslim, he told himself, or at least he was trying his absolute best to be one. It was his ultimate goal in life. He couldn't even imagine himself getting involved in anything related to magic or sorcery. But then again, here he was, holding a notebook that had no source and had seemingly appeared out of nowhere. He still didn't want to believe it. How could anyone believe something like this? There had to be a logical explanation, something he had overlooked. This time, he put the black notebook inside the safe box where he put his money and locked it with a padlock. Of course, he was the only one who had the key to the padlock, and he hid the box very well inside his closet, which he also closed with its key. "Okay, everyone, let's begin our class, shall we?" said the science teacher without looking at his students. He was facing the board, writing today's date and the title of the lesson he was about to teach. "I need you to open your science books to page 105. Today we're going to study the role of proteins in our body's immune system." All the students began fumbling through their school bags for their science books. Once they had opened them to the wanted page, the teacher finally turned to face the class. "Okay, before we start the new lesson, who can tell me some other important functions of proteins in the body?" While he waited for one of the students to raise a hand, he noticed something strange. One of his students, who was sitting in the fourth row, had his school bag open on his desk, and it seemed that he still hadn't taken out his book. But what really caught the teacher's attention was the student's expression. He was frozen, staring into the inside of his bag with a look of shock or maybe even fear. "Ali, is something wrong? Did you forget your book?" the teacher asked. But Ali didn't seem to hear him. He kept staring into his bag, his eyes wide with disbelief. Inside, right on top of his other books and notebooks, was the black notebook. The same black notebook he clearly remembered leaving at home, locked inside his metal safe, which itself was locked inside his closet, and he was the only one who had the keys. How could it be here? "Ali, is anything wrong?" the teacher repeated, louder this time. Ali snapped out of his shock. "Oh, no, sir, nothing, sorry," he said, embarrassed. Well, what else was he going to say? I'm being chased by a creepy enchanted notebook? No way, especially not in front of the whole class. He quickly pulled out his science book and flipped it open to page 105. "I asked a question. Do you know the answer?" the teacher said. "Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it, sir. Could you please repeat the question? My mind was elsewhere," Ali replied with an embarrassed grin. "I can see that," the teacher said. "The question was, what are the other functions of proteins in the body?" Ali tried his best to forget what he had just seen inside his bag, which, of course, was impossible to do. He took a long, deep, silent breath and thought for a moment about the teacher's question. When the teacher began to think that Ali didn't have an answer, Ali finally spoke. "Okay, from what I remember from previous years, we learned that proteins are made of groups of amino acids attached together in chains. Depending on the nature, sequence, and number of those amino acids, we get proteins with different specific shapes and therefore different specific functions. As for their functions, well, there are many. For example, we know that hormones are a type of protein, and there are a lot of them, like insulin, which regulates blood sugar, and adrenaline, which plays a major role in the fight-or-flight response and stress reactions. Enzymes are also proteins, and there are many types of them too, like digestive enzymes such as amylase and lipase, which help digest the food we eat. And we also have structural proteins like keratin, which is found in our hair, nails, and skin, and collagen, which is present in our muscles, cartilage, and bones. Oh, and we can't forget about hemoglobin, another type of protein, which is the major component of our blood cells and is responsible for transporting oxygen to all the cells in our body. And, yeah, that's all I know about proteins, sir. That was very good, said the science teacher. Actually, it was impressive. But of course, that's no surprise coming from you. Unfortunately, it also wouldn't be a surprise if I ask it whether you did the homework I assigned last week and you tell me you didn't. Am I wrong? No, sir, I did my homework this time, really, Ali said quickly. Good. Let's hope that's a good sign that you finally decided to get serious about your education. It's really a shame to see a brilliant student like you not giving his full potential. Please, continue like this. I'm sure if you do, you'll have a bright future ahead of you. On any other normal day, a compliment like that from his teacher would have made Ali very happy and motivated. But today wasn't a normal day. At the end of the school day, as soon as he left the building, he took the black notebook out of his backpack and threw it into the nearest trash can he could find. Did that make him feel any relief? Absolutely not. Because this time he knew better. It definitely wasn't a normal notebook. It was supernatural. While he was walking home, two scary thoughts were haunting Ali's mind. The first was obvious. Was he going to find it again in his room? The mysterious notebook had already made it very clear that it was chasing him wherever he went. Still, he clung to a small hope that maybe, just maybe, after throwing it in the trash, he had seen the last of it. Silently, he prayed and pleaded with Allah to make it disappear from his life forever. The second thought was even scarier. If the notebook was truly supernatural, as it kept proving by repeatedly appearing for him out of nowhere, then was it really what its title suggested? A real death note? Could the first rule written inside it actually be real? From his Islamic background, he remembered that devils do possess some supernatural powers, but he also knew they could never reach that level of power, taking someone's life just by writing their name. That sounded more like a divine miracle than simple magic. Or maybe he simply didn't know enough about the topic to judge it properly. A cold chill ran down his spine when he suddenly remembered that he had almost written his friend Salim's name in the notebook. Ali? Are you okay? His sister asked him, concerned. Sorry, Ali said, as if suddenly waking up. He forgot that she was with him, and he hadn't realized that his face looked so grim or that his hand was holding hers a little too tightly. He had been so lost in his scary thoughts that he forgot she was with him. I'm, just a little tired. Don't worry. Then suddenly, his heart leapt when he noticed that they were now approaching their home. There were only about 100 meters between them and the door, and with every step closer, his heart pounded faster and faster. He never imagined, in his whole life, that one day he would be afraid to enter his own home. He let Yasmin go ahead of him and watched her go inside. He, on the other hand, stood at the entrance for a moment, taking slow breaths to calm his nerves. Unfortunately, for some reason, the mini meditation wasn't working this time. After a few seconds of nervous breathing, he began his journey to his room. Yes, the distance between the entrance and his room was small, but for some reason it felt like a long, terrifying journey. When he reached the base of the stairs, he paused for a long moment, staring up at his room. Then, with slow, cautious steps, he started ascending the stairs, trying not to make a sound, as if afraid the notebook might hear him and suddenly appear on his desk. At the pace he was going, if a turtle had been climbing the stairs beside him, he was sure it would have passed him by. Finally, when he reached his closed bedroom door, he stood there again for a long moment, staring at it. He was really terrified to open it. His hands were literally trembling. But then curiosity and hope took over his body. With his shaking hand, he grasped the doorknob and slowly turned it. The door creaked open slowly with a creepy sound, as if the moment wasn't scary enough. Gradually, the inside of his room was revealing itself to him, and with it, the black notebook sitting in its same usual and favorite spot. right in the middle of his desk. Again.